Crystal Palace played quite well in the game. They certainly look like the more cohesive team and they look more choreographed and their patterns of play were very good. Elise was given the player of the match by Stuart Pearce on talkSPORT 2, where we were doing that commentary last night. I think we should probably ban the phrase turning a corner, because I think people maybe who didn't see the whole game last night woke up this morning, saw Chelsea had won again. It's a third home win in a row, and they'll be thinking, oh yeah, maybe they're on the right road. But the idea of Chelsea or Manchester United turning a corner because they've won one game is over. We should just ban the phrase, because Chelsea haven't turned a corner because of that, nor have Manchester United. Those two barely are in the car revving the engine, let alone approaching the corner. A third win in a row at home, but it was only the sixth home win all year. All year. 2023, 6 home Premier League wins.
Under 3 different managers?
Under 3 different managers. Most losses, fewest goals and fewest wins at Stamford Bridge in a calendar year since 1986.
Yeah, but you've done it on a budget of £1 billion. So, you know, let's not get too high or low if you're a Chelsea fan.
They lost more games in 2023 than every side in Europe's top 5 leagues apart from 3. And I don't think Almeria, Empoli or Werder Bremen spent £1 billion.
It is quite incredible when you lay out the bare statistics. What was the atmosphere like at Stamford Bridge last night? Frustration.
Right. And it was fascinating watching Poch in the technical area as well, because speaking to him after the game, he's clearly pulling his hair out, but he can't say it. You know, he wants them to build up with patterns and purpose that they've designed in training, but the players just doing it all off the cuff at times. They've got very good talented individuals, I think, and sometimes you get away with it as a result of that. There's a lot of raw talent, there's a lot of young talent in that group, but it's not a team yet. Do you know what I mean? It's not. I know they were missing Cole Palmer and Sterling yesterday because of suspension, but they need to start playing like a team, because Palace do that. Palace haven't got as much as Chelsea have got in terms of raw talent and potential, but they've got a couple of very good players like Elise, like Eze, who's maybe still not up to speed just yet, but they're a better choreographed team. They look as if they're doing what the managers asked them to do. Pochettino's standing there saying, this is not what I asked you to do. They're just making stuff as they go along. Nicholas Jackson doing sort of balletic flicks when he gets into a really promising position isn't helping anyone.
I think it's the balance of the squad as well, isn't it? I mean, for me, they're still lacking that number 9. Obviously, and Nkunku comes into the team. He had a brilliant opportunity to make it 2-0 when he just seemed to lose his footing and trip over his own feet and was then claiming a penalty. Obviously, Brozier's come on. I'm not convinced he's quite at the level that Chelsea need. You had to move Gusto from right back to left back at one stage. Obviously, both first-choice fullbacks in Chilwell and James are injured, which is a problem. Not convinced by Badia's Shield at the heart of that Chelsea defence.
Colwell struggled against Elise yesterday, especially in the first half.
Yeah, and it does defy belief that they've spent so much money and made the team so significantly worse. You have to think, when they took over Chelsea, they hadn't long won the Champions League. You know, they would have challenged for the top 4 under Thomas Tuchel if they just kept him, I'm sure of that, and not meddled too much with the squad. But this squad looks a million miles away from where Chelsea have been in the past. And I'm amazed that Chelsea fans actually are just sort of shrugging their shoulders and accepting this.
They're not shrugging their shoulders and accepting it.
Is there much ire directed at the owner?
We had where we sit when we do the commentary at Stamford Bridge. We've got we're in the East Stand, we're at the back of it. We're right at the front row of that gantry area, and right in front of us, literally sitting in the row in front of us, is a group of fans, and they kept turning around and talking to us during the game and at half time, whatever. And they were pulling their hair out as well, because you know it's like they don't understand what the project is that Chelsea are embarking on. Obviously, they've signed a lot of these players on long-term contracts. So these players are going to be around for a very long time, because there's no way that anyone's going to come in and buy them for a hefty price, the price that's going to take to get them out of the club.
But that in itself is a massive issue, because these players are not good enough to get Chelsea back to where they were before Todd Bowley came in.
They're not good enough at this moment in time.
Are they going to be
in
good
this
enough?
Setup that somehow, I don't know how he does it, because he's clearly trying to mould them into a team. He's got to find a way to get them into a team. Hasn't helped that they've had a significant number of injuries and haven't been able to get Nkunku on the pitch until yesterday. It was his first Premier League start, Lavia's first Premier League start. He's injured again, by the way. He's managed to command £73 million worth of transfer fees. He's 19 years of age and only played 27 Premier League matches. A quite outstanding, really, piece of business. But yesterday we had Stuart Pearce doing the commentary on talkSPORT 2 alongside me. And he had his say about Chelsea's performance when they were 1-0 up in the game.
Do you know the worst job in football at this moment in time, being the analysis person for Chelsea that's got to debrief the performances, because it's so difficult. If someone tasks me with sort of feedback to the players how we've done, without trying to crush their sort of confidence in any way, you know, and there's some bright things that come of it. They're winning the game 1-0, but there's so many bits and pieces, little errors, bad passes that you've got to pick players up on. That it's a character assassination.
He was pulling his hair out as well. He just could not believe it. He actually said at one stage, I want to interview Pochettino and I want to ask him what he really thinks of his team.
So what he's suggesting, and I think what you were suggesting as well, is that these players at this moment in time lack football intelligence.
I think there's a lack of experience in that group. You know,
Sassi's 25.
He actually turned around and said to me during the middle of the game, Stuart Pearce said this, he said, with all due respect, 3-4 weeks ago, I came to Chelsea for the first time of the season, he said, and I looked at it and I thought, how on earth have they spent £1 billion and Conor Gallagher, with all due respect to Conor Gallagher, but how is Conor Gallagher the captain of this team with all of the characters that they've spent money on? He said, I couldn't work it out. He said, I've watched them 3 times since then, and I know exactly why Conor Gallagher is the captain of this team. He's the only one with tactical discipline. He's the only one that has the energy to lead the press and run around like actually putting out fires. He's the only one who uses the ball properly. He hasn't necessarily got the best technical quality out of those in that group, but he's the only one who looks mature enough to be able to handle the situation. You know, he played this beautiful ball through to Nicholas Jackson last night, which he had to score, at least hit the target. And he steered it wide, and it was a great opportunity. And you actually thought at that moment the game's going to go for Chelsea.
Well, obviously you were defending Jackson to a certain extent yesterday compared to Højlund, for example. But I still think long-term Højlund is going to be a better footballer than Nicholas Jackson. OK, United spent a lot more money on Højlund. But I'm just looking here. I mean, you talk about lack of experience. Disasi is 25. They paid £38.5 million to sign him. If he's no good at 25, or not at the required level at 25, he's not going to get there at 27, 28. He's not good enough. That's 40 million down the drain.
Yeah, but that's one player. Well, I mean, what other players are of his age?
Badia Shields, 22. Is that?
Well, that's young. That's still a young player.
Is that a rookie in the modern game?
Well, the youngest average starting 11. I think Chelsea's is 23, something like that, which is the youngest in the whole.
Caicedo, 22 as well.
Yeah, he's still young.
Yeah. What's your verdict on him so far for the money they spent?
He's got a lot of room for improvement.
Oh, that's a very polite way of putting it, isn't it? Enzo Fernandez, the same. They paid over the odds for him.
He's injured.
That was a vanity signing, though, wasn't it? In terms of the amount of money, their sporting recruitment team got so far down the line with that deal, they would have almost been left red-faced if they walked away. But it's like a game of poker. Sometimes you have to know when to fold. And Man City are good at that. If the price gets too high, they walk away. Chelsea need to learn to walk away.
Yeah, all right. Well, you're wagging your finger there. Well, also, as long as, you know, if you've got potential, and sometimes it takes you a little while to get up to speed of the Premier League for players, sometimes it's the same for owners and sporting directors as well.
By 2028, they're going to be unbeatable.
And they're going to be bankrupt as well.